Welcome back, guys, to another Corinthians study. Today we're going to be looking at chapter 10. So let's go ahead and read that word, shall we? The first section is called Warnings from Israel's History. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples to keep us from settling our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were, as it is written. The people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ as some of them did, and they were killed by snakes. And do not grumble as some of them did. They were killed by the destroying angel. These things happened to them as examples, and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the accumulation of the ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you do not fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out for you so that you can endure it. The next section is called Idol Feasts and the Lord's Supper. Therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. I speak to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. Is not the cup of thanksgiving for which we give thanks a participation in the blood of Christ? And it is not and is not the bread that we break a participation in the body of Christ? Because there is one loaf, we, who are many, are one body, for we all share the one loaf. Consider the people of Israel. Do not those who eat the sacrifices participate in the altar? Do I mean, then, that food sacrificed to an idol is nothing, or that an idol is anything? No, but the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God, and I do not want you to be participants with demons. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons too. You cannot have a part in both the Lord's table and the table of demons. Are we trying to arouse the Lord's jealousy? Are we stronger than He? The last section here is called The Believer's Freedom. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat whatever is put before you without raising questions for conscience. But if someone says to you, "This has been offered in sacrifice," then do not eat it, both for the sake of the one who told you and for the sake of conscience. I am referring to the other person's conscience, not yours. For why is my freedom being judged by another person's conscience? If I take part with meal with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of something I thank God for? So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greeks, or the church of God, even as I try to please everyone in every way, for I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. Prayer model for 1 Corinthians chapter 10. This will be in your daily. I praise you, Father, for you have better things for us than worldly things we crave. You love those who love you and love your ways. God, help me to deeply desire your presence, your ways, your truth. Let me never worship anything above you. You are my God. You are pure, and you desire purity in the lives of your people. You give mercy to those who cry out to you for help in weakness. Help me to walk in purity in every place in my life. Help me to reject the things of the world and love the things of God. Father, you are supreme and sovereign. I can trust your ways. You honor pure hearts, absent of complaining about you. Lord, help me to trust your sovereignty, even when your ways are hard. Let the joy of the Lord fill my heart and crowd out any grumbling. You provide examples for me, so I do not stumble. You strengthen me, so I do not fall. Father, let me heed the warnings of those who have gone before me. Help me not to repeat the sins of the ancient Israel. Help me stand with your strength without any arrogance of self. Amen. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Questions from the NIV Study Bible. All right, so we are going through chapter 10's questions here. The first one on here, if you can see, it says link under the cloud. So in this book, it says link. This is referencing verses 1 through 10 under the cloud. So this is actually what it says. It's not a question, but it's actually linking to the Old Testament here. These verses summarize the history of the Israelites while wandering in the wilderness after Exodus, clouds, and sea. This is referencing Exodus 13:21, 14:22, food and drink, Exodus 16:4 through 35, 17 through 6, Numbers 27 through 11, bodies in the wilderness, which was Numbers 14:29 through 30, idolatry, Exodus 32:4 and 6, sexual immorality, Numbers 25 verses 1 through 9, testing the Lord, Numbers 21:5 through 6, grumbling, Numbers 16:13 through 14, and 41 through 49. So if you guys want any references as to how the New Testament and Old Testament reference, this is a good passage to use. All right, let's move on to the actual questions here. One of the questions was, how were the Israelites baptized into Moses? This is referencing verse 2. This is what they wrote down. Paul recalled the history of Israel and described Israel's experience as a baptism. Baptism means overwhelmed, covered, submerged. In the ancient times, you could be baptized by debts, by passing through the Red Sea, and by following the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. The Israelites were baptized with the power of God through the ministry of Moses. The next question is, how did the Israelites drink from the spiritual rock that accompanied them? This is referencing verses 3 through 4. This is what they wrote down. Israel had twice received water in the desert from literal stationary rocks, dramatic miracles that refreshed and sustained the people. This is referencing Exodus 17:5 through 6, Numbers 20:7 through 11. In Jewish tradition, however, these miracles became an allegory. The rock was interpreted as a symbol of the law, something that was both portable, it accompanied them, and spiritual, it sustained them. Paul, however, substituted the law and the allegory with Christ, Galatians 3:24 through 25. With hindsight, he and the early church looked back and saw Christ at work in ancient Israel. So a lot of the times, the speculation between some scholars and some theologians is that when you read the Old Testament, this is a lot of things that I've heard, is the angel of the Lord is actually Jesus before he became flesh. So that's just something to ponder a little bit. If you guys read the Old Testament is full and rich in history and knowledge. Old Testament is so great. If you guys can get the chance to read that, it is amazing. It is an awesome story. It's just a really fantastic read, honestly, and it really describes how we got here in it. And when you read some of this stuff, it really makes you thankful as a Christian for Christ coming in the flesh. So now let's get to the next question here. What is the culmination of the ages? This is referencing verse 11. This refers to the end times, the last days, as the time when all God has been doing for his people through all previous ages will come to fruition in the Messiah. And the next question is going to be, why does God allow temptation? This is referencing verse 13. This text doesn't try to answer the question of why there is temptation. It simply promises believers that no matter what the temptation, God will never abandon them. Other texts, such as Romans 8, 3-5, James 1, 2-4, 1 Peter 1, 6-7, do address why God allows temptation. Such passages assure us that God is ultimately in control and that temptation can make us stronger. And the last little bit references a couple other things. So a lot of people I've seen on YouTube ask, well, if God is all good, why does he allow temptation? Why does he test us? Why does he do all these things? And the answer could go anywhere, right? Why does God allow temptation? Well, it clearly points in the Bible that it makes perseverance, right? Without challenges, how could you become a better person? Right? If we look at the secular world, right? You don't just be promoted to manager without challenges, right? You can't become something better without challenges. You can't become the person you're supposed to be without trials and tribulations. And if life was so easy, we wouldn't need God, right? And people say, well, that's a little narcissistic. God allows temptation, so we just what? We're just here? And I'm like, no, it's not. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that with trials and tribulations comes perseverance. That is called being a faithful servant of Christ. Jesus didn't say, once you believe it's going to be easy. He didn't say, oh yeah, once you believe, the Lord's going to bless you, the Lord's going to give you riches, the Lord's going to give you this and this and this and this and this. I can tell you one thing, guys. The one thing I know about the Bible is this. God doesn't care about the material things of this world. And God doesn't care how much riches you have. God cares about where you are in your heart. Do you fully, truly desire God with your heart, all your mind, all your strength? Are you fully trying to be there with God? Or are you just kind of hanging out, not doing anything, just sitting on the couch, eating chips and watching TV? What are you doing? And to circle back as to why does God allow temptation? Well, he allows temptation because, quite personally, I think it's a competition, right? It's a competition to see who can get more. Lucifer challenged God. He did. Challenged him. And he failed, but he still challenges him to this day. How stupid is that? So, when there's some people may ask, oh, so this is all a game. I said, well, yes and no. I believe that there is a great divide in the world, and that someday this game that we're all playing will come to an end, come to a conclusion when Christ returns. And if you're not on the right side, well, my friend, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. That's all I got to say about that. So the next question is, do Christians have the right to do anything? I love this. This is great. This might be a really long question for us. I don't know. Let's get into it. Paul was quoting by popular saying that the Corinthians may have used to defend their practices. Paul believed Christians are given great freedom, but he wanted the Corinthians to be more cautious about using their freedom. This is great, right? Here in America, we have freedom. We have that freedom. We have the right, right? That's what everyone says. Well, I have the right to do this. But as Paul says, but not everything is constructive. You have the right to do everything, but not everything is beneficial. We'll take the Pride community. I have the right to do whatever I want, to give in to my desires. Yeah, you do have the right. But is it beneficial? Is it constructive? Are you seeking your selfish desires? Yes, you are. You're seeking your selfish desires. Let's go to a better example we talked about a few videos ago. I have the right to bear arms. I have the right to defend myself. Yeah? Is it constructive? I'll let you answer that question. I'll just let that sit. Let that simmer there for a second. You have the right to an abortion. Yeah? You do. In the United States, you have the right to do that. But is it beneficial? Or are you being selfish? You're being selfish, is what you're doing. Selfishness is not the way to God. Being selfless is the way to God. And we all fall in the pit of that, right? I do too. I do things for selfish gain. You do things for selfish gain. Sometimes we do things that are evil because we say we have the right to do everything. But I just want to caution you for a second here. If you're one of those people who says, I have the right to do anything, I'd like to ask you 3 questions about that answer. Is it beneficial? Is it constructive? And is it seeking the good of others? Or are you just seeking it for yourself? Those are the 3 questions I'd like to ask you if you are saying that. Alright, next question. Next question is referencing 27 through 30. Why could the same type of food be eaten under some circumstances, but not be eaten under other circumstances? Don't mind my laundry in the back. Sorry about that. Paul made a distinction between our rights and the obligations to others. Though we can be thankful for and eat the food God gives us, we should consider the consciences of others if someone's faith would be damaged by seeing us eat something we should abstain. So this is directly referencing the last chapter that we talked about was food taken to idols, right? Weak Christians, baby Christians, But baby Christian sees a mature Christian doing something, they're going to think it's okay even though it's not, all right? So if you're a mature Christian, you are held to a higher standard. You are expected to know more. You are expected to do these things. Yes, there are expectations. I'm sorry, you do have to work. All right. So the last question here. Last question. This question I feel like is very important here. I feel like a lot of people struggle with this. It says, this is what the question references verse 31. This is what the question is. What is my purpose in life, and how can I be certain of it? Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew 6:10. This is the essence of our purpose. We are to honor God and advance his kingdom through who we are and everything we do. Through our cooperation with God's Spirit, who is at work within us, we can grow to the point from that what aligns with what God wants. Our passions and our purposes are his passions and purposes. We think, speak, act, and relate in a Christ-like way. We will never be perfect or without struggle in this life, but we can be inwardly connected to Jesus. We listen for the Spirit's guidance. We cultivate our gifts. We live our lives pursuing God's kingdom interests, but often this isn't enough for us. We want to know our specific individual purpose with certainty. We want the mystery solved. We want to find a unique purpose that focuses our energies and convinces us that our life counts. Perhaps our feverish search for a specific is misguided. Maybe our need for certainty reflects our addiction to control and what Eugene Peterson calls insider's pride. God wants us to trust him, and sometimes knowing too much leads to trusting too little. Maybe letting go of the pressure to find our purpose and instead following hard after God each new day will center us squarely in the target. Can I just say that is the most perfect answer I have ever heard to what is my purpose in this life? I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that question. What is my purpose? What am I doing down here? I don't know what I'm doing here anymore. I've found myself asking this question myself. What is my purpose, God? What am I doing here? What do you want me to do? And I've actually, I have evidence for this answer, and that is true. When you go through life, you start out young, your parents put you in school, you do all these things, you get to high school, and you say, man, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? That is the question you ask in high school, right? It's like, where am I going? What am I doing? Am I going to college? Am I going to the military? Am I going to the workforce? And a lot of people, they have no idea what that answer is. And they get in college, they spend all this money for no reason. They get a degree that really doesn't get them a good job, doesn't pay well. These people out here getting master's degree, and these jobs paying them, $15 an hour, what at McDonald's people are making just flipping a hamburger, So, we go through life, and I may be young, and I may know some things, and I may not know other things. And from a young point of view here, the purpose of life, how can you be certain of it? The only advice that I can give you is to reiterate what this passage says, and that is to pursue Jesus, right? Pursue the kingdom, and the rest will be given to you. That is the verse that I can give you. And you say, well, I'm uncertain. I don't know about these things. And I can tell you, there's been times where I've been so uncertain about some decisions that I've made. There's been times where I'm like, man, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is leading. I can tell you right now, my YouTube channel, right? The Lord proned me to make this channel, and I keep sitting here. I say, I'm not getting any views, Lord. What's this doing? Where am I going with this? And he just keeps telling me. He says, keep reading, keep doing the prayer, keep talking about the questions, keep doing it. Don't give up. And I say, okay, Lord, I trust you. And one day I'm going to look back on this and I'm going to thank God. But right now, right now is a struggle. I get up and I often wonder, whether or not I do want to make that encouraging video of Christ, and whether or not I do want to make Christ content, whether or not I want to do the things of God, or whether or not I just want to put it down and say, you know what, this isn't working. But we're supposed to have endurance, right? Have endurance, trust in God, trust in the Lord, because he knows. And all I can say is, if you are someone who is struggling with your purpose in life, you're a college student, high school student, people are pulling you left and right, and you're unsure where to go, I would encourage you to open the Bible and pursue Jesus, right? That doesn't mean go to seminar school, it doesn't mean, go do religious studies, but spend some time with the Lord. Pray to God and spend some time with him, open his word up, read it, study it. If I've always said, I've always loved this. I've always said this thing. If you are someone who doesn't master anything of this world, master the Bible. Master the Lord's word. If you're not a craftsman, you're not an artist, your work is meaningless, you're saying, I'm not really good at anything. Well, I can tell you one thing you can be good at. You can excel in the word of the Lord. You can become a spiritual disciple. If you don't master anything in this world, master the external world, right? Master the spiritual world. Master this Bible. Know it front to back, cover to cover, every verse, every page. Have a personal relationship with God and Christ, and I'm telling you what, that will pay off more than your degree will. That will pay off more than your job, more than your relationships, more than anything. Knowing the word of the Lord, studying the word of the Lord, and knowing it, having a personal relationship with Christ every day, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it, that, my friend, is going to pay off so much more than what you're trying to decide right now. And it's okay not to know. It's okay. It's okay not to know the answer. As this passage says, sometimes we need to let go of the pressure to find our purpose and instead following hard after God's each new day. Follow God every day, and He's going to reveal the answer to you one way or another. You just got to look for it. Seek Him, and you shall find. That's all I got to say about that. All right, guys. That is the last little bit of questions here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm enjoying going through these with you guys. I hope you guys have a blessed day. As before, if you guys have any questions, comments, you just want to talk Bible, we can go ahead and talk about those in the comments section. I'm not going to argue with you guys, but I am, I'd be willing to have a conversation with people. I am just trying to develop a community here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. If you guys have any prayer requests, let me know too. Be happy to pray for you. I hope you guys have a great and blessed day, and may you continue to walk in the Lord every day of your journey.